The truth will set you free, but first it may thoroughly irritate you. That's what we hear from Susan Scott, who is the author of this week's Nurturing Big Ideas book review with me, Yvonne DeVita. We're Big Ideas in Books, and I am your facilitator today. So Susan Scott, she wrote a book called Fierce Conversations, and I know I read this several years ago, but this is a new, revised, updated edition that I recommend you get, and you get as soon as possible, because it's more than a book about speaking. It's a book about conversation. And she tells us in the preface, when you think of fierce conversations, think passion, integrity, authenticity, collaboration. Think cultural transformation, and think leadership. I know that some of the women I talk to who are looking to earn some money from their magic, they're very talented, and I tell them, take your talent, make magic with it, and I'll help you make money with it. But they don't think of themselves as leaders, and yet they should. When you're out there offering yourself to the world, you are a leader in and of yourself and what you do. And the funny thing is, many of these women were stay-at-home moms, or they worked in a small business, but they were not the CEO or the owner. And so they don't think they have leadership skills. But let me tell you, everything you've done prepares you to be a leader. And I want to explore then the guiding principles of Susan Scott's book, because there are 7 of them. We're not going to talk about all 7. We're only going to cover a few chapters of the book, because honestly, I could take 4 or 5 book review sessions to go through this book. And I really think it's best for you to look at the review, think about what I'm saying, think about what I'm sharing here, and then go get the book. But the 7 principles of fierce conversations, according to Susan Scott, are: master the courage to interrogate reality. Understanding that reality is an ever-shifting object, and that is my interpretation of that. Reality is an ever-shifting object. My reality might not be yours. So 2, come out from behind yourself. Accomplish your goals by making every conversation as real as possible. We're going to get into the whole real as possible thing in a minute. Be here, prepared to be nowhere else. I interpret that to mean speak and listen as if this is the most important thing you do today. That's what she says, as if it's the most important thing you do today. So everyone that you talk to is important. No one person is more or less important than another. Tackle your toughest challenge today. So the problem named is the problem solved. If you're like me, you make lists, and on the lists are the challenges, are the things you have to get done, but it's more than just the tasks. It's also the challenges. It's the, I am going to do this today, and I need to look at this today, and maybe there's research. But whatever the toughest challenge is, name it and solve it. Obey your instincts. I'm here to tell you that instincts are as real as the sun and the moon. Do not ignore them. Take responsibility for your emotional wake. I think this is a tough one. We're not going to get all the way into that, so you need to get the book and read it. But the past is something that may come back and bite you, is kind of where I go with that. If you've said something or done something that is making someone else feel bad, and you really didn't mean it, it doesn't matter. It may come back and bite you. So, that's where you need to be fully aware and in the moment, and we'll talk about that. Let silence do the heavy lifting. I say listen between the lines. You can't listen between the lines if you're too busy trying to figure out what you're going to say in response to something someone else says. So let silence do the heavy lifting there. First thing we have to establish here is, what is a fierce conversation anyway? And I couldn't resist the giraffes. I hope you will humor me with that. They were just too adorable. And I imagine they're having a fierce conversation in that picture. So doesn't fierce suggest menacing, cruel, barbarous, threatening? No. Scott tells us, in its simplest form, a fierce conversation is one in which we come out from behind ourselves into the conversation and we make it real. And there you are. What does real mean? Well, I mean, real, authentic, they talk about it everywhere today. You have to be real. You have to be authentic. I'm here to tell you, we were talking that way 10 years ago. Nothing has changed in the be real and be authentic world of advice. Problem is, we all think we're authentic, don't we? Don't we bring our real selves to each and every day? I do. At least I think I do. I think Scott wants us to examine that assumption. You know, it means not avoiding hard conversations or ones that might make us cry. And when I say that, I don't mean cry out loud sobbing. I don't mean tears running down your face. But I mean, you know, the hard conversations that get your heart pounding and make you catch your breath. And you know they have to happen. You avoid them, but don't avoid them. You need to be real. Authentic people move beyond that and get fierce. This is so awesome. I mean, I searched online for some image to represent this, but life is curly, Susan Scott tells us. How awesome is that? I mean, can you see it? Do you imagine it in your head now, all the little curly cues? When I was searching on some of the free sites where I go to get images, they were showing me a lot of women with curly hair. And I almost took one because it really does represent the whole curly, life is curly idea. But let's face it, she writes, the world will not be managed. Life is curly, don't try to straighten it out. I mean, we do that. We try to straighten it out. Sometimes we do straighten it out, but it always goes back to being curly. You need to get into that and understand it and accept it. So this part I really, really enjoyed, this quote that she has. Tie a lure onto your line, a belief, an opinion, a provocative question, typo, then chuck it into the stream and see what bites. Are you ready to do that? Is it too scary? Oh, well, too bad. You need to do it. You need to do that at least, I'd say, once a week. If you can do it every day, how awesome would that be? Give it a try. Tie that lure onto your line. Chuck it in the stream and see what bites. Ceremonious questions. This one was a little thought-provoking for me. She shares this Chinese proverb in her book. When a question is posed ceremoniously, the universe responds. I'm trying to understand the word ceremoniously in there. Is this another form of asking you shall receive, what we're taught as children? The good Lord or the universe or the powers that be, if you ask, they will give it to you. I get the sense in the book here in Fierce Conversations that if we make the ask to each other and then we both deign to answer, we have now both been validated. What are your thoughts on that? I'm really interested in hearing what people think of that, because it's got me kind of looking at the curliness of the world and reality and just going back on myself and saying, have I been ceremonious enough in my ask? So further on in chapter 3, by the way, she says, this chapter will help you learn to be someone prepared to be nowhere else. Prepared to be nowhere else. I think that, to me, that means you need to listen as well as you speak. And it's something I'm still working on. How about you? Interrogating reality. Now, we already know reality is kind of shifting. Didn't we see that earlier? It doesn't stay the same. It's different from moment to moment, I think. But Scott tells us a fierce conversation is not about holding forth on your point of view, but about provoking learning by sitting with someone side by side and jointly interrogating reality. I'm struggling with that. Not about the interrogating. I can interrogate. It's the shifting reality. But I think that's good, and I think it's important, and I think we need to do it. She wants us to understand that our point of view is influenced by reality. But life is cruel, you know, and you have to shift with it. Really, you have to be agile. You have to be flexible. You can't just be rigid. And in this particular area, I was drawn to the word interrogate here. So it goes to the asking questions and not assuming the answer. Very hard to do because we're so busy today in the world. We ask a question, we expect a certain answer, and sometimes we don't get that answer, but we think we have. In our brain, we've gotten that answer, even though we didn't, even though the person we're talking to gave us a different answer. Yep. You need to stop doing that. Fierce conversations are important. Now, seeing with your heart. This is the intuition, right? I love this quote. It is only with the heart that one can see rightly. What is essential is invisible to the eye. Have you let your heart lead you today? You know, in nurturing big ideas, a lot of what we do has to do with heart. Our heart is telling us that we can be successful in our new small business, a solopreneur business, a lifestyle business. Our heart is telling us, you love what you do. Go out there and share it with the world. Because Scott tells us, you know before you know. Now, this is chapter 5. And Cardinal Newman quote, we can believe what we choose. We are answerable for what we choose to believe. So look at that carefully. We can believe what we choose. We are answerable for what we choose to believe. Did you get that? Maybe you should write that down. Maybe I should put that into a nice quote image and share it on the blog. Maybe I will. So her assignment in this chapter, by the way, all the chapters have assignments. Well, this assignment is to pay fierce attention to what you are thinking and feeling and be courageous in your conversations today. We've used a lot of those kinds of words. Courageous is one of them. Fierce is one of them. I think that when we think about communication, when we think about conversation, we don't think about words like that, courageous and fierce and all the kinds of things that are essential. Leading with our heart. We don't. We just kind of go willy-nilly out there without second thoughts. You know, this to me is a good reason to learn to meditate. Take that 5 minutes maybe every morning or every afternoon, away from everybody, off to yourself, quietly. Maybe there's music that you can listen to. I can help you with that if you need any insight. I know some people that have great music. They have great ways to help you and teach you to meditate. Maybe that's what we need to do. Meditate a little bit more. Open ourselves to the universe and really make it about the conversation and not about the after. So it's about the entire conversation. It's about being fierce in the sense of being real, being authentic, being there, listening between the lines, and being present. So meditating can help us do that. I want you to get this book. I want you to get it today. I want you to make sure Amazon sends it overnight or 2 days or whatever if you have Prime, because you need to read this book. I think I need to read it over. It's been a while since I looked at it. I had it in the list, in this stack of books rather, to do this review on, but I need to look at it even more. And I think I'm going to go to some of her TED Talks. So Susan Scott, TED Talks, look them up. Now, I want you to visit our start page and sign up for our newsletter. I want you to get What's Love Got to Do with It. It's an ebook about, is loving what you do and want to do enough? Maybe, maybe not. We're going to be talking about a lot of big ideas here. We're going to be doing book reviews on a regular basis. And we also have new video section where we'll be hopefully interviewing authors about their books. Stop back, share this on social, send us your big idea and thoughts on what you'd like to hear more of. And don't forget, if you have a book, I want you to send me your book and tell me that you'd like to have it reviewed. I can't promise we will do every book, but if you email me first and give me a little overview, I will let you know for sure. And that's Big Ideas in Books, a Nurturing Big Ideas book review with Yvonne DeVita, your big idea facilitator.